Story 1. When one partner does not feel they can talk to the other about relationship issues for fear they will become angry or defensive. Story 2. Ignoring their feelings or brushing off things that really matter to them. Story 3. Treating someone with disrespect, especially in front of other people, is cruel. I have been in relationships and have seen others where one partner belittles the other in front of friends to gain approval or to make themselves look better. That behavior is gross and sad. Story 4. You are placing undue stress on their shoulders because you cannot be bothered to behave like an adult. Story 5. Humiliating someone in public and pretending it is a joke. Looking at a phone while someone is talking. Story 6. She ignored my bids for connection. I tried to talk to my ex about things I was interested in or that I thought she would like to hear about, but she either fully ignored me or gave me one-word replies to shut me up. Story 7. They put their partner on the back burner regarding their wants and needs. Everyone else, including friends and family, comes first. Story 8. I overheard my ex's best friend once say, "I could leave my girlfriend tomorrow and not shed a single tear or ever think about her again. I am just being honest." They are now married with kids. Story 9. When you politely ask someone to stop and they continue. Story 10. They ignore your boundaries while insisting that others respect theirs. Story 11. Saying "I love you" but doing nothing to show love for their partner. Story 12. I admire the ability to put one's own needs aside for the sake of a partner. I see many people who are very focused on setting boundaries in relationships. While I agree there should be healthy boundaries, part of being in love is being able to be flexible when needed. Some days are bad, some days you are sick, and sometimes unexpected things come up, and you need help from your partner to get through them. I know friends whose partners respond that it is their problem and they should figure it out. I cannot understand why they stay with them. Story 13. No small gestures, no compliments, no effort whatsoever. It is not always obvious because they can still be pleasant, go along with the plans you make, and be good company. But they never initiate anything. Story 14. The whole phrase "in sickness and in health" really puts things into perspective. My cousin and his wife had been married for almost 20 years. She was in a car accident with a semi-truck and now cannot walk and has limited mobility and impaired speech. He left her within a year. Story 15. Shutting them down or ignoring them whenever they try to speak. Being casually cruel about them to other people, for example saying they are useless or that you cannot stand them. Story 16. If someone asks them what they like about their significant other, they only describe how that person makes their life easier. Story 17. I immediately thought of stories where brides ask not to have cake smeared on their faces, and the groom ignores that and goes ahead anyway. Those actions show a lack of respect for a partner's boundaries. Story 18. Recording someone and posting the video on social media to belittle them. Story 19. When you take a back seat to everything else in their life, it is a sign they do not prioritize you. My last ex usually did not invite me to things with his friends, always seemed to have plans on weekends, and his texts were infrequent. The relationship ran on his time. When I first noticed and brought it up, he broke up with me a month or two later. So yeah, I don't think he genuinely liked me. My current partner has introduced me to his close friends, spends time with me on both weekdays and weekends, and wants to see me. I remember feeling insecure and telling him he did not have to invite me, but he made it clear he wanted me there. It shows he actually enjoys my presence and cares about me. Actions speak louder than words. No matter what nice things someone says, if their actions do not match, they do not really mean it. Story 20. Staring at your phone while they are talking to you. Come on. Story 21. I was at a work event when a manager started calling his wife a stupid bitch. He went on for about 10 minutes, then asked about my wife. I said my wife is amazing, and even if she were not, I would not badmouth her. He got all sour when I said that, and I laughed. I later met his wife and liked her 10 times more than I liked him. Story 22. When someone expects praise for doing something basic and claims they did it for you, no. You loaded the dishwasher. It is an everyday task. I do not have this issue with my wife, but I see it a lot with her friends' partners. Story 23. Disrespect, such as belittling someone, taking them for granted, or complaining about them to others. Selfishness that puts one's own wants and needs first, and forcing or allowing a partner to take on more than a fair share of the load. A lack of genuine admiration and an attitude that the partner cannot do better and will not leave, which leads to treating them poorly until someone better appears. Ignoring a partner's feelings and needs, failing to ask for their input on important decisions, a wandering eye, or flirting with others online or in person. Not putting effort into the relationship or into making sure the partner is happy, and a lack of generosity. Finally, when they stop looking at you. Story 24. When they can walk away with that smirk as you pour your heart out to them. Story 25. Hot and cold behavior. Gaslighting. Insincere apologies with no change in behavior. No respect for boundaries. A do as I say, not as I do mentality. Insults disguised as jokes. Always making you feel like you are doing something wrong. Starting fights without cause. Playing the victim for problems they created. Story 26. Do not fail to back them up. In a casual conversation, you can take the side of another person or disagree. But if it comes down to a confrontation, you must have their back. Story 27. Enjoying time away from a partner can be healthy. We need time apart from significant others. Being together 24 hours a day is unhealthy. However, if you are often thrilled to be away from your partner, it is probably not a good sign. Story 28. Controlling them to the point that the partner does not have any say. Story 29. Wow, people in the replies must have met my ex. As soon as a relationship feels one-sided, if you try to communicate and they do not listen, leave. I wasted so much time with a complete jerk. Now I can only laugh at how ridiculous it all was. I hope everyone here has found someone better. Story 30. So my husband's best friend's wife and I were chatting once, and I mentioned that my husband is my best friend. She was very surprised and said she does not consider her husband a friend at all. He is her husband. Ma'am, do you even like the man you are legally contracted to spend your life with? Anyway, she was cheating on him with someone she met on Reddit, and I no longer talk to her because my husband has always hated her. Believe it or not, she is a bit of a bitch, so we cut her out. Her husband stayed with her even after finding the very gross messages on her phone. They are wild. I cannot imagine living such a miserable life with someone so awful. Story 31. I know we are talking about romantic relationships, but stay with me. I'll get us there. I think we can be loved and still not treated well. As someone who grew up in an abusive home, I do think my parents loved me, even if they were animated piles of maladaptive coping and intergenerational trauma, completely unequipped to raise me. Broken people can love, but it often does not feel good or healthy to be loved by them. Even with less damaged people, I do not take their actions as proof that they do not love me. A person could cheat on me, fail to check in, or be unkind, and I can still assume they love me if that is what they tell me. However, and this is important, just because someone loves you does not mean you need to stay connected with them. I will not argue with someone about whether they love me. I will walk away completely if my boundaries are disregarded, or if I feel continually ignored or disrespected. Story 32. Communication should not become an argument with raised voices, attacks on each other's character, or attempts to win and feel right, instead of seeking mutual understanding. If you can live together and truly feel listened to, speak freely without fear of it becoming an issue, and not silently endure discomfort and sadness out of fear of driving the other away, and be direct and honest without a victim-perpetrator mentality, that is true mutual respect and the gold standard of love and care. My partner and I have lived together for some time and we never argue. It is not difficult. It is very easy. Issues have arisen, but we both naturally prioritize resolving them. We have never shown a hostile attitude or tone toward one another. The sad thing is that arguing is often accepted as normal when it need not be. Story 33. Every single one of the top comments describes something I am going through right now. Depressing. Story 34. When I love you sounds more like a routine than a feeling. Story 35. Putting little to no effort into the home and childcare, so one person handles all planning and tasks alone. Story 36. Swatting someone's hand away when they try to hold it while walking away from Air Force One. Story 37. They show no follow-through when asked to make changes, or even worse, say they are just that way. When you really love someone, you want to do things that make them happy and try to accommodate their needs to the best of your ability. When someone seriously resists that, it is clear they do not really love their partner. Story 38. Weaponizing incompetence causes one partner to do everything because the other partner does not know how to do things the way their partner prefers. Story 39. Being selfish and constantly putting your needs above theirs. Story 40. Constantly using playful teasing or joking when a partner asks them to stop. Story 41. When one spouse has a problem that causes distress and the other could easily solve it with little or no effort but does not, it is often because they do not care. They see the problem as not theirs, so why do anything about it? Story 42. When you express concern about their poor behavior, the way they speak to you, or their short temper, they respond, "You always make me the bad guy." That is victim gaslighting. Then they say, "Well, you do something," to deflect responsibility. Story 43. Empty eyes when they should sparkle. Texting other women he shouldn't be texting. Claiming to be working late. Forgetting birthdays and holidays. Never showing love or affection. Never hugging or kissing. And never saying "I love you." Bringing you down when he should be supporting you. Refusing to pay for period supplies when I forgot my wallet and offered to pay him back. Sleeping in a different bedroom. Laughing at inside jokes with other women. Dismissing any claims I make as false. Avoiding coming home. Smelling of perfume I don't own. Slowly isolating me from the world. Story 44. When someone talks more about being in a relationship than about the person they are with. Story 45. This happens when you, alone or with your partner, are talking to a couple. One person is engaging with you while their partner gives off the vibe that they could not care less about what you are saying. They do not get involved or even try. They often look bored, check their watch and say, "We'd better get going." Their partner looks embarrassed, sometimes apologizes, and they shuffle off together. If you look back, you sometimes see the disengaged partner being berated. It suggests they do not truly love their partner when they cannot be bothered to engage with their partner's friends. Friends are irreplaceable and do not just come and go. They deserve your partner's kindness and attention, not contempt. Story 46. He constantly shares memes about how painful being in a relationship is. I have an uncle whose social media feed is full of wife bad, marriage bad jokes, and it is not hard to see why if you observe the dynamics of his marriage. Story 47. Never wanting to do anything with them. I spent excessive time at work instead of going home. Story 48. Always being passive-aggressive or snarky, not just for banter. Never being considerate or giving time, gifts, or affection without expecting something in return. The first time someone discusses their partner with a stranger and inserts a degrading, joking remark is especially off-putting. If you do that, I immediately think less of you. Story 49. Minimizing or belittling the sacrifices a partner made for the relationship. Invalidating every thought, feeling, opinion, or perspective shared in a conversation. Breaking promises. Story 50. If they feel they do not owe you an explanation for their wrongdoings and do not care to hear yours. Story 51. Being unwilling to put in any effort to make them feel loved or secure in the relationship, not being emotionally available to your partner, not being vulnerable with them, showing them no grace, criticizing only their shortcomings and never complimenting anything about them. Story 52. The catalyst for ending the relationship was that I realized I hated myself and wanted to quit smoking, work out, eat healthier, and generally improve my life. She tried to derail those efforts at every turn. She did not explicitly sabotage me, but she tried to dissuade me and did not support my efforts. I did not mind that she had poor health habits and never forced her to join me, though I invited her often. If you cannot support someone who wants to become healthier for their own sake, you clearly do not care about their well-being. With her, it felt like she resented being reminded of her own faults, and misery loved company. Story 53. Pushing or ignoring boundaries, especially right after you set them. Story 54. not making plans or moving to the next stages of life within a reasonable time. After 5 years of dating with a prior agreement about marriage, there is still no proposal. They are unwilling to move in together, not planning to buy or rent a house, and sometimes do not even try to get to know your family. It feels like you are an accessory rather than a partner they intend to spend their life with. Being the one always pushing for these things is painful. You feel unloved. Story 55. Saying being married to you is terrible, especially in front of others, really hurts my self-esteem. Story 56. Here is a meta one. If you came to the comments with the intention of finding reasons that your partner does not love you. Story 57. The other night I was at a bonfire talking to a nice woman. She kept raving about her husband and pointing to him. He was at the other end of the fire, not next to her. For the entire 30 minutes I conversed with his wife. Despite her compliments and gestures toward him, he did not smile or speak. He only stared at her. I thought, may this type of love never find me. Story 58. Making someone the butt of your joke to others. Saying you are so mean to me as a joke to your partner carries a much different vibe than saying she is so mean to me as a joke about your partner. Story 59. If they talk about someone behind that person's back and make their personal affairs public instead of resolving the problem directly with them. Story 60. Your wife is essentially a single mother because your husband does nothing with the housework or childcare. Story 61. Contempt, jokes that cut, vanishing when they need you, keeping them a secret, zero curiosity about their world, effort only when someone's watching, and constant scorekeeping. Story 62. Plays computer games around the clock, does nothing to help except roll the shared joint, and expects you to do the dishes when you come home from your 40-hour-a-week job. Story 63. I have an ex-friend who refused to take a picture with his wife at her birthday party. When we were singing the happy birthday song, he was outside drinking a beer. I think you cannot get more disrespectful than that. It was truly awful to see. Story 64. It happens when someone consistently deprioritizes their partner's growth. Real love means wanting to see someone evolve and supporting their ambitions. Whether it is a career change, a personal goal, or even just picking up a new hobby. When someone subtly undermines confidence, dismisses dreams as impractical, or shows no enthusiasm for their partner's progress, that is not love. It is control or apathy dressed up as companionship. The erosion is slow but devastating. Story 65. Criticizing them every time they feel happy or want to grow. Story 66. My ex gave me a lecture when I asked why he knew so many details about my niece's health. She had surgery. He said he remembered and asked about people when he cared about them. Meanwhile, I had been struggling with serious and frightening health problems for over a year. I had recently been to a specialist appointment that he knew I was very nervous about, and I had an upcoming surgery that I was afraid of. He did not ask me for a single update after the first 2 months of my health struggles. Even when I mentioned the specialist appointment, the possible diagnoses, and how scared I was. I cried during that conversation, and he apparently did not care enough to ask about the diagnosis later or what the results would mean for a solution to my problem. It meant invasive surgery. It was crushing to realize he did not care enough to ask about those things, while everyone else who knew even a fraction of what he knew was checking in weekly. We ended the relationship because of his selfishness and emotional unavailability, and I went through the surgery and recovery with my best friend. Story 67. Cheating shows they do not care about you and are willing to sacrifice your well-being for quick, cheap pleasure. Story 68. Belittling, backhanded compliments, and the regular use of brutal honesty or positive criticism when it is nothing of the sort. Story 69. They watch you wither into a shadow of your once bright self and do not question why. Story 70. Constant accusations and cruelty that push someone away. Wanting to keep someone without caring whether they are happy. Preventing them from doing things they enjoy and isolating them from friends and family. Story 71. I worked with a man who was dating a woman who sometimes brought him lunch. She followed him around like a puppy. He essentially ignored her and made no effort to introduce her to any of us. They are no longer together, unsurprisingly. Story 72. They talked about how easy it would be to cheat on you and said you should consider yourself lucky because they had not taken the opportunity yet. Story 73. They bark orders at people the second they enter a room without so much as a hello. Story 74. When they stop caring about how their partner feels. Not in a big fight, not in a dramatic breakup, just slowly, quietly, one ignored feeling at a time. Story 75. Not having their back or defending them when they are not around. Story 76. Laughing out loud. I was reading the pickleball subreddit. The first answers to the question all made sense, but I thought the question itself was a bit odd. Story 77. When they are obviously using them to compete with others, such as their friends and acquaintances. Story 78. They are trying to convince you that the bare minimum effort deserves full credit. Story 79. Someone I know was in a long-term relationship of nearly 10 years. He was in another country when we met. When talking about his partner, he said the plan was for her to come, but when asked why not marry and bring her, he said he did not want her to rely on him and did not want to get married for that purpose. They are still together but remain in different countries. I don't know. To me, that suggests he is not in love with her. Story 80. He forbids hugging, holding hands, or kissing. He only wants to receive rather than give. He reminded me he went to a concert my father invited us to, claiming he was dragged there and does not like that music so much for wanting to spend time with me without the children. He says he has to go play cornhole for work. He laughs when I try to talk about what is bothering me and says I am just crying again. He keeps a list of everything I say to him and insists the tax return money is his. He tells me we should get divorced. Story 81. I have been on the receiving end of every single thing mentioned here from my ex. Wow. Story 82. Some people do not hesitate to talk badly about their partners whenever they get the chance. I absolutely cannot fathom talking badly about my partner. If I wouldn't say something to his face, I would not say it to anyone else, and he feels the same about me. I've actually had people get annoyed or angry with me because I refuse to join in talking badly about partners. Mine works very hard. He listens, washes the dishes, takes an interest in whatever new hobby I've picked up that week, and makes me a cup of tea every morning. Yes, he does not do certain things, but that does not warrant speaking ill of him to other people. Story 83. Rage baiting. You will never be able to convince me that someone who intentionally antagonizes me to laugh at my reaction loves me. Story 84. A man was once confused about why my wife was picking me up from work while I put my bike in the trunk of the car. He kept asking, "But why?" My wife replied, "I guess I'm nice." He then said, "I wish my wife were nice to me." That line has become a touchstone in our relationship. I hope they got divorced because even if that is true, why are you badmouthing your wife to strangers in a parking lot? Be nice to each other. Story 85. My recent ex told me that he likes when I am sick because I do not get hangovers, and that is not fair. I have a chronic illness with moderate to severe debilitating pain. He could not figure out why I was so upset by his comment, and then he denied saying it at all. That was one of the final things confirming that he did not care about me. Story 86. People who call maternity leave a holiday will be the worst helpers to their pregnant partners. Story 87. Cheating, abusive behavior of any kind, and humiliation, to name a few. Story 88. Constant fighting over the same issue without compromise. One partner sacrifices everything for the benefit of the other. Control and an unequal power balance. Story 89. Allowing someone else to flirt with them and not saying anything about being in a relationship, especially while I'm standing right there. Are you serious? Story 90. Talking about how much of a pain they are to everyone except themselves. Story 91. They treat you as disposable, as if you are not their first choice. They use you. Story 92. Pranking someone constantly, even after their partner has repeatedly asked them to stop. By pranking, I mean bullying disguised as tricks. Story 93. Only caring about their money, time, schedule, and life. There is much to explain, but this simplifies it. Story 94. Arguing constantly over ridiculous things, avoiding discussion, and failing to meet in the middle to make things work for both of you. Story 95. Always use a subtle tone of contempt and condescension toward them. Never speak to them as if you are on the same level. They are always below you. Story 96. Making fun of someone in front of others, even if you say it is loving, is not acceptable. Do not do that. We can all tell you are an asshole. Story 97. They mock you. That behavior not only shows how little respect they have for you, but also that your pain and embarrassment are a source of amusement for them. That is wrong. Story 98. They can be super happy, chatty, and friendly with other people, even total strangers, but then act bored or disinterested in anything their partner has to say. Story 99. Openly commenting on how attractive other people are, including public figures. Story 100. This subreddit has stirred up serious emotions. Almost every comment reflects something I dislike about my marriage. I need to get divorced. Each year that passes, my mental health declines and I become angrier. I feel less and less important in my own home, as if I am only there to work and provide, not to be loved or occasionally appreciated. I cannot imagine waking up and not having my children down the hall, so I am waiting patiently until my youngest turns 18, and then I will pull the ripcord. I keep it together as much as I can for the children and try to mask my depression. I feel worthless in my own home and like a non-romantic roommate instead of a husband and partner, while trying to give my children a happy, positive life full of love and experiences I never had. This subreddit has been both therapeutic and anger-inducing. Story 101. We've been together 8 years. She wants to get married, but I don't know. The time isn't right. Story 102. They constantly complain about them to everyone once they are apart. Story 103. They are consistently unable to share their partner's excitement about small things. Story 104. When someone talks down to their partner in front of others using little jabs and jokes that sting, that is not love, that is ego. Story 105. People who are envious of her achievements belittle her. I have seen this often. Story 106. Walking 10 feet away from them and leaving them in the dust. Story 107. You panic when you see her text or call you at work. Nothing says I love you like calling 5 times in a row, berating your spouse at 2 in the afternoon for not doing a household chore, and then hanging up abruptly. Story 108. They say the distance is normal, but they push you so far back that you start to feel worthless. False promises and apologies that say I'm sorry, but it's not going to work out this time. Moments when they do not listen to your feelings, do not validate them, and do not ask why. The biggest is withdrawing and becoming reclusive. Story 109. Saying embarrassing things about someone in front of others. Story 110. I'm here now. I do everything, and she has no interest in how I feel or what I am interested in. When I tell her how I feel, she makes it about her feelings, and it is always take it or leave it. I am tired of a one-sided relationship. My son notices it too. She is disconnected, and after her affair it became worse. I am leaving after Christmas. My son is old enough and he is coming with me. Story 111. Speaking poorly of someone to other people. Bonus points if they are standing right there. Story 112. When they ignore everything you do and say, as if you do not exist in their life. Story 113. This includes ignoring them, invalidating their feelings, and making them feel like a burden. Story 114. They show more emotion toward a past partner than they ever showed you. You feel like a disposable side character in their life. There are lies and secrets. Story 115. I knew someone who told me, before their partner's birthday, that they would not buy the partner's birthday supper. I knew the partner always bought their suppers, even on regular days. The person planned to buy their own meal and make the partner buy theirs. I felt a bit heartless, and I felt sorry for the partner, especially because they felt the need to tell me about it. Story 116. Having no control over temptation and always looking for something better, they are never happy with a partner and seek validation elsewhere, although it is typically more of a self-love problem. Story 117. When someone is inconsistent, saying one thing while acting differently, when you feel more deeply than they do, when you tell them you are struggling mentally and they dismiss you as seeking attention, and when the relationship feels based only on sex, as if sex is the only thing keeping it alive, Those are lonely, depressing feelings, but it is what it is. Story 118. Dismissing their hobbies and interests, criticizing them for those hobbies, and never giving them a chance to speak. Story 119. When someone tells you what you feel instead of hearing you say it. Story 120. Cutting humor, as my mother calls it, is making jokes about the other person being stupid, ugly, and so on. Every bad relationship I see is full of it. Gentle sarcasm and light joking are not necessarily signs of a bad relationship. That is entirely different. Story 121. Finding a lot of humor in exploiting someone's fears, boundaries, or safety. It's something really dark and disgusting to take pure joy in inciting terror or distrust in someone, especially after they have told you they do not like it and do not want it to happen. Ruining something they care about just because you do not like it. Expecting someone to be your nanny, pay for you, pick up after you, and cook for you at all times, and acting as if it is the end of the world if they do not. Story 122. Using sex as a weapon or bargaining tool is harmful. Withholding sex because you made your partner angry over something trivial, or because you did not buy them what they wanted, is abusive. Story 123. Hearing the words relax, it was just a joke makes me want to throw hands. Story 124. My ex didn't even see me as my own person. My entire existence was tied to what I could give her. At first it feels nice to be wanted and needed, but then you realize they don't actually love you for who you are. They just want someone to fulfill their emotional needs, regardless of the sacrifices to your well-being. Anyone who disregards your autonomy or whose love feels like possession is not truly loving you. Story 125. Making belittling jokes about your spouse in front of others. Story 126. One obvious issue was a lack of accountability. During the time my ex and I were together, I cannot remember her offering a single unconditional apology. Each apology was conditional, came with a heap of justifications, or required that I apologize first. It began standing out after a while, so I started paying attention. I might have received an unconditional apology earlier and not noticed because apologies are supposed to be normal, but from the moment I began noticing until the relationship ended a year later, there was not a single unconditional apology. She would typically explode if I said something she did hurt me, then accuse me of hurting her for saying so. By the end of the relationship, I felt insane. Story 127. There is constant arguing and pointing out each other's faults. I know everyone argues. My wife and I have had intense arguments over the many years we have been together, but there is a point where it becomes unhealthy and blurs into hatred and resentment. Story 128. You complain about them on Reddit, but never actually have a conversation with them about the things that bother you. Story 129. Spending all your time on activities that take you away from home, such as work or hobbies, can be damaging. It is striking how often married workaholics are not genuinely dedicated employees but are avoiding their home life. Story 130. Going 2 weeks with zero physical contact because I did not initiate. I mean zero, no hugs, no kissing, or even hand-holding. I understand she has something going on and has no sex drive, but not even the little stuff. After we have had several conversations about it, it makes a person feel wanted. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.